have so many things we can talk to you about today.
What's going on?
Yeah,
I'm confused.
we're rolling.
We're rolling already?
We're rolling. He
All
never
right.
trusts me.
Yeah.
He never trusts me.
There's a story of like something happening, right?
He messed up an
There
episode.
is
There's
one
a lost
story.
episode.
There's the lost files. I don't even know what we were talking about. It
It was a good one. It was our best one ever, and he lost it.
Of course.
Yeah. And then I catch, and sometimes I just look, and then I think that makes him nervous that I'm looking to see if there's a red light blinking.
He's unsure. There's not confidence.
Watching his every move.
Yeah. So you probably heard another voice on the podcast today. We have a guest. We have a guest
Who's
in
that
town. Who's the guest?
Guess the guest.
Yeah.
This is Sangram.
Yeah.
I'm the co-founder CMO at Terminus, also the founder of Flip My Funnel, and loving life.
All right. So
Loving
there's so
life.
many things that we want to talk about, but I was just with you in the kitchen, and you told me you were out to dinner with David last night.
Yeah.
And you said, if you listen to this podcast out there, you know that DC always talks about himself as an introvert.
I don't go out.
And you said myth busting.
Yeah.
He's not an introvert.
No.
What? Don't say that, Sangram.
Here's the
Tell
thing.
the people the truth.
I'm sitting in between Vala, right, who's the chief digital and evangelist at Salesforce,
Yep.
and then Scott Brinker, and both of them are introverts. They proclaim to be introverts, and they are introverts. Like if you don't start a conversation, it's kind of, it will be quiet.
Somebody's got to make a move.
Yeah. And then
Like
here
me.
comes David, and he's just talking about this topic and that and horseback riding, and, all that stuff,
I
right?
love it.
So it's all like David. I'm like, this guy's not introvert. He actually put me to shame.
Yeah,
So,
I had to bring it up a level. For we were bringing Atlanta. So Sangram is CMO of a company, Terminus, ABM leaders worldwide.
Yeah.
And he came from Atlanta, so we had to show him what's up at Boston.
what's
and
up.
it was raining, cold. It was like 50 degrees
Worst
in
time to
July.
be here.
Yeah.
In July.
I had no hoodie, nothing. I was like,
Nothing.
this is gonna be fun, and it's dry in Atlanta, and it's like raining.
Rainy, dry in Atlanta. I thought it's humid in Atlanta.
It's muggy.
All right,
Muggy.
so there's a lot of things, and I think a lot of people would say, oh, you have Sangram on. You're going to talk about account-based marketing. That's actually, I don't really want to talk about that at all. Well, I think there's something bigger that we want to talk about, and that's actually what you're going to be speaking about at Hypergrowth, which is a good...
Wait, Sangram's speaking at Hypergrowth?
He is one of the,
Okay.
he is one of the marketing leaders speaking at Hypergrowth.
That's
which
amazing.
Wow, I
is
feel honored. Too excited.
2 months from today, by
Yeah.
the way, when we're recording
I'm
this.
psyched.
So you guys you've turned this idea, which is account-based marketing, into a movement. And that's kind of, I think, what would be an interesting angle for us to go into today is as a marketing person or as somebody who's building a company, and DC can talk a lot to this, is where did this whole thing start? How did you tap into a movement, and maybe even bigger than that, what do you think that says about how you have to compete today?
Yeah.
Where did this whole thing start?
Well, I think great question. I think the first thing, I don't think anybody kind of, start thinking about hey, I want to create a movement. That's not the first thought. That's definitely not how I started out. And it wasn't until 6 to 8 months later that somebody said that, hey, this is a movement. And I'm like, what? This is a movement? That's great, right? Because
That's
we
amazing.
we're in the motion. We're just doing it. We're doing it one day after another, one step in front of another. We just kept going. But it really became an idea. I think what we did was, which now thinking, kind of taking a step back, I think was a really, really lucky that we actually fell into this, is that we focused on the problem. We did not focus on us. We did not, even the Flip My Funnel conference is not about Terminus. Terminus is a booth just like everybody else. We got our competitors in the space, the thought leaders, anybody that could actually talk about the problem. We gave them all a platform. And we did that at a hyper speed. We did a conference almost every 2 months. So maybe it's coming for you then. I don't know about this. But every 2 months, we just went to different cities talking about this problem, just evangelizing that this is a problem. And people agreed that, yeah, this is a problem. I hear all these great, amazing people like Jill Raleigh talking about, Scott Brinker talking about, Vala talking about, all these people are, David talked at the last conference, all this people are saying that, yeah, this is a problem and we need a solution for it. And when we got everybody behind the problem, everybody started to look for a solution. We happen to be one of the solutions out there.
What just for people listening, what was the problem that you were going after?
It's very simply stated. Forrester did research that said that less than 1% of the leads turn into customers. Let me kind of pause there and say that again. Less than 1% of the leads that marketing generates turn into customers. People are saying that's 0.25 actually. So when you think about that, it just tells that, shit, if I'm spending all this time generating this crazy amount of leads, and if they don't turn into customers, especially if you have a bigger, longer sales cycle and a bigger deal size and more complex sales process, then I'm going to be wasting a lot of time, energy, money, and resources. So we just kind of moved on that. Like, this is the problem that everybody's kind of facing, and we need to challenge the status quo on it.
Do you think that's because they have those ugly forms there? Right?
It's like,
you see that? No forms.
Yeah, no forms.
No forms. That's why they have that 1% conversion rate.
What is your take on this though? Like you've been doing this. You built every product under the sun in this space.
Yeah.
See, if I don't say he's OG, then he'll say it in his own way later. So I just got to say it.
You know what this reminds me of?
What does it remind you
Little
of?
tangent here.
Go.
My son, he's 5. He's the young lion. He asked my wife seriously a couple weeks ago. He said, "When you were young, what did you draw on the cave walls?"
you did that?
He said that. He said that to my wife.
Where did he get that from?
I don't know where he got this from, but he's like, yeah, when Mom was young, she drew. That was the time of the cavemen. That's amazing.
And
that's what he's trying to say to me.
Did you just sit here and like?
That's what DG is trying to say to me. Back in 55 years ago,
olden times,
when you were inventing computers.
So here's the DC thing, right? If I don't say it, he'll be like, if I say something, he'll be like, yeah, I used that 20 years ago. So he'll say it in his own way, but if I say it, it's screwed up.
But that's true. Like that, if he says it, he's owning it. If you say it, you're putting it on him.
Yeah, that's true. Don't put it on me.
It's my job to put it on you.
Isn't that a song? Don't put it on me.
Don't put it on me.
Okay. What's my take on it?
Well, but you defined it. You defined it a little differently and talked about it like marketing arbitrage a little bit, right?
Sure.
It's all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the results.
I think similar kind of problem when it, at least in my view, was that which is this arbitrage thing that we always kind of like overcorrect for things. And so, we overreach on something and then we have to correct for that. And it's just the natural ebb and flow and cycles that we have. And so for a decade, we kind of pushed everyone to like one way of marketing, which was turn your website into a magnet, get people to the website, get them to follow these steps, which was this prescribed funnel, like get them at the top of the funnel, push them through. And that the best way to do that was to create something to magnetize them in, content of some form, whether it was an ebook, blog post, or video, whatever. And so everyone ran that same playbook, which worked for a good amount of people because there was arbitrage in the market at the time, meaning that it was hard to create content. So if you created content, it was easy to stand out. That's gone away. But then for some portion of the market, it probably never made any sense because that portion of the market had a limited customer base. So back in the day, we would call it like targeted accounts, right? You have targeted accounts, meaning that you're a company that maybe only has 50 companies in the world that matter. That can be your customer, or 500 or 1,000 or 10,000, whatever. It's a limited scope, right? So you don't want casual browsers coming to your website and figuring it out. It's a very targeted audience. And therefore, those people, that kind of content approach didn't make sense. Instead, flipping the funnel made sense, right? Which is you have the targeted list, so maybe you shouldn't write blog posts all day going out to everybody. Let's just do stuff that is focused on that targeted list of people and then try to grow that relationship over time. So it totally made sense. And I think lots of things contributed to it, but I think like there was this like a lot of people feeling like, well, I did this content thing and it didn't work for me. And it's like, yeah, but you only have 50 companies in the world that matter for you. Yeah. But,
So, all right, so you guys both are coming at this thing from the problem is similar. You're coming at it from different angles, right? Like our take here at Drift is, messaging, and that's obviously a big piece of, we think of ABM. You're coming at it with Fit My Funnel, ABM. Why do you think that we're still having this conversation? Like, because I feel like you go to dinner. I'm sure you guys brought this up last night. You talk to all these people.
Yeah.
Everyone agrees.
Yeah.
But then in our jobs, like, you can barely, it's crickets, right? Like everybody is doing the same things. Do you have a take on that, or?
So I'll add to the timeline. What like you made a really good point, and I think that will probably answer some of this question that I'm gonna call you DG now.
Sure.
DG.
That's the only way.
Is like, I think about it as every 5 years there's magic or change that happens in the marketing and sales world. So in 2000 it was email. Like, remember those days?
Yeah,
And now, I'm
yeah.
like, you know, David, remember those
I
days?
remember those days.
It's okay if he
He's
says
G.
it.
Yeah.
So you think
He's a
about
G.
like
Yeah, you're right,
like
you're right.
email marketing, we get 85-90% open rate. Like
Yeah.
that was phenomenal, right?
Phenomenal.
Exact targets of the world and other were
Totally.
born out of it. You kind of fast forwarded 5 years, like, you know, content marketing and marketing automation came about. They said, if we can send emails, we can capture leads.
Yep.
And if we can capture leads, we can show value of marketing. So people got so good at marketing that they became crazy about it, and they just generated a shitload of leads.
Yep.
You fast forward 5 more years, and like predictive came about.
Yep.
Because sales said, marketing, please stop sending me ton of people who
Yeah.
are only putting their business card in a fishbowl. Like
Yeah.
they want like an iPad. They
Yeah.
really don't want to talk to me. You're wasting
Free
my
iPad,
time, right?
yeah.
And that's where predictive said, you know what, we're going to help this problem by helping
Scoring.
you understand
Yeah.
scoring. And I think it was the early days of like AI,
Sure.
some sort of, right?
Sure.
And then you fast forwarded 5 more years, 2015, ABM comes about. Well, the whole point in the last 15 years we're solving for is that how do I optimize for making that the right person is talking to the right, you know, at the right time
Yeah.
about the right kind of product that you want to sell.
Yep.
So finally, ABM becomes like, shit, this is the problem we have been solving to, and we just went, as you said, like in a different direction of just generating more of the same as opposed to a few of amazing stuff. And now I think the AI stuff and all that stuff is coming about. So I think it's a natural evolution, but the problem is still the same. How do I give my sales team the best opportunity to win? And that's the business I think that Drift is in and Terminus
Sure.
is in, and we are all in.
I think that's the perfect segue. I'm going to tee you up because I think the best opportunity to win is the common, I just wrote down 2000 email, 2005 content, 2010 predictive, right? 2015 ABM.
Yeah.
This is the thing that goes missing from all these marketing conversations is marketing is about being where everybody else is, right? And so email was
Where
new.
attention is.
Where attention is, right?
Yep.
And this is why you're so bullish on video and messaging. And yet now it's 2017, right? And then how many businesses do you know are leading with video and messaging? Very few,
Not
right?
many.
We're all still, I don't want to say we because that's not what we're doing here, but like we're all still using the same tried and true methods.
Yeah, because they're easy.
It's easy.
They're easy, yeah. So I had this, one of my rants. I was ranting to someone and just saying, and I've said it before, which is like, you know, as marketers, as business people, we need to follow attention. And attention patterns change, right, over time. And whether that's, you know, from a media standpoint, whether that was like radio to TV to, you know, internet to blah, 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 et cetera, you know, the progression. But if we look at attention patterns right now of everyone that we know, they're really concentrated in 2 areas that he just mentioned, which is messaging and video, right? And if you look at like just what do you use your phone for, like there's some sort of messaging communication that happens, and then there's a lot of video consumption, whether that's YouTube or stories or whatever the format is. There's a whole bunch of different formats on video. That's where we spend most of our time. And then to me, it's natural that marketers and businesses need to figure out like, okay, how are we gonna exploit is the wrong word, but how are we going to engage in those channels? Because like that's where attention is. Like there was a time when there was like a lot of attention in written content, and that was at the early days where there wasn't as much noise. But now there's so much noise that you need help figuring out, right? What's the right content? And now attention is moving towards video and to stories and towards messaging. So how do we use that? But again, like you said, like not many people are thinking that way.
Yeah, you know, I tell you, like as an example, we're a huge fan of like videos and video art. Like we're a big customer of them. And like the best thing that the SDR team is doing is actually using their Chrome extension thing, viewed it, and saying that, hey, this is Taylor. I'm just on your website, like Square, and I see that you guys do this. Like, I would love to have a conversation with you because this is why I think this will be ABM is the right thing for you and whatever. Like literally like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But she's doing that and with their name holding in her hand, right?
Yeah.
So they know. So they're clicking on that video and stuff. I think I think it all comes down to this idea of like time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, cut all the things that are going to be like in between of like you and that personal connection that you can have. Like, you know, if you have time is such an incredible value in it. Like, we're just underappreciated. When I ask somebody to kind of fill a form, like, and this is kind of your pitch, right? It's like, well, why are you putting so many blockers in it? And I believe that video is exactly that. It's the next best thing to like a face-to-face conversation. So why not do it more?
Well, especially like as a business, you're trying to sell something, right? And the thing we say here internally is like time kills all deals, right? And that's
Right.
even more specific
True.
to the sales cycle. But even just think like if you're browsing the web, how often do you go to somebody's website? If you don't find what you need,
You're out.
gone.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people think of that like, oh, what does that experience actually mean?
Yeah.
Right? And so if I go to your website and I'm trying to find something, I can't find it, I'm going to go do something else.
Yep.
I think that's because a lot of people have grown up with, or one reason maybe is that a lot of people have grown up with this division between like, oh, that's business and then this is personal.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I consume a lot of videos, but that's at home.
Yeah.
That's not what I do at work.
I
Or
love,
like,
I love the example.
I buy
How
this
old
way.
is your daughter? 12?
12,
Okay.
yeah.
And you always talk about her like in this context,
Yeah,
right?
because I watch what she
Yeah.
does, and she doesn't. There's no distinction there. It's not only her, but it's anyone who's kind of grown up like digital native or messaging native or whatever. Like, there's not really a distinction between like companies and people. Like those things are the same, and that's like an artifact that many of us still have of just like having different versions of ourselves, where many people don't think that way, and they think
Yeah.
they should be able to talk to whoever, Target or I don't know, whatever company you can think of, like a person.
Right. All right. So we could talk about this marketing piece forever,
Forever.
but I think what we do is talk about different things on Seeking Wisdom.
Yeah.
And I want to do that a little bit.
Sure.
So maybe I want to get into your story for a second in a little bit, but like I want to hear, what do you think? What's one or two things that you have done that you can point to, non-traditional things that you think have helped grown Terminus, right? Because I think a lot of people in the marketing space know who you guys are and know what you're doing, but it's not like you just built an email list and started a blog and started videos. Now all of a sudden, like, do you have one or two things that you can point to that were unconventional that have helped you guys grow?
I think the two things would be like, one was like just focusing on the problem, right? Like, and I think even how we like, I didn't know most of the people out there in the community that were doing incredible stuff, like Jill Raleigh, for example, or Scott. Like, I didn't really knew these people, like, like as a friend or anything like that. I was just doing my thing in the Pardot days. But then, like, when we fell in love with the idea of talking about the problem as opposed to our product, like, it opened it took away all the restrictions, right? Because whenever you're talking to somebody about your product, you feel like you're pitching, right? But when you talk about a problem, now there's a common bond between you guys. Like, you guys hold each other's hand, like, I remember what you said, I feel it, right? So the feeling is real.
Yeah.
So in the very early days, it actually goes back to the video. I shot Nikki, who runs Flip and Funnel on my team.
What's up, Nikki?
Nikki is a 6-star subscriber to Seeking Wisdom.
She is like a huge fan, huge fan. She's been rooting for this one for a while. So what she and I did was we literally get in front of a whiteboard, and I wrote the name of the person. And like, so first one was like Megan Eisenberg. She was a CMO. She's a CMO at MongoDB, right? And I've never met her, and said, Megan, it will be amazing if you can come and speak to this conference. It's about challenging the status quo. You're doing some incredible stuff in marketing. I would love for you to come and speak at this conference. And that's it. Like, that's all I did. And I sent that email to her. And I saw, because we were using video art, there were like at least like 50 or 60 opens on the video, right? And she said, like, this was the best outreach anybody. So she flew in from California to come and speak at a first conference we did that she and I never met before until the day of the conference.
Because you made that personal connection.
I invested in it, right? And that's the unconventional thing. Most marketers are shy to put themselves out there and actually reach out in a personal way.
DC, what do you call that?
Yeah, one-on-one.
Hand-to-hand
combat. Yeah, which I think people always want to discount in marketing. They're just like, oh, that doesn't scale. And it's like, that's the most highly leveraged thing that you can do was that thing that you did right there, right? You could have spent that time building some email list or something and had no conversions on that thing.
And we knew, like, people are not going to come to a conference to listen to me, like, especially not the very first conference, like, who is Sangram? I can't even pronounce this guy's name, right? People are going to come to the conference because incredible, amazing people are going to come and share their stories, and they all want to be part of that. So that's one. The second, in like an unconventional thing, was we just wrote a book on account-based marketing, and we didn't write an ebook. We actually went and got Wiley's to help us, like, publish a real book. Right, and that was a way for us to kind of build authority in the market, right? If we could have written as many ebooks, like people download ebooks and forget about it, people don't throw away a book that's on your table, right?
Like kind of like that.
Yeah, like that, right? It's right there, right? So people don't throw books, right? So I think those are the two things that I think we did that allowed us to become an authority in the space that's on just on the topic of the problem, not the solution. Like, we're not saying we have the solution, you got to buy it. We're saying, let's acknowledge the problem. And if we all agree on the pain, then we can really figure out together how to solve it.
And how do you see things? How do things feel different between Pardot, which you mentioned before, and now Terminus, like in terms of what you do and just the market?
Yeah, actually give context there too. So
Sure.
you were at Pardot, like
I ran marketing at Pardot and was through the acquisition of ExactTarget and Salesforce, and I spent a couple of years at Salesforce. It was amazing to kind of see kind of a little bit of what I could behind the scenes, how Mark Benioff and the whole leadership team comes up with one message and the whole company. I mean, it's just phenomenal experience. I can go on and that. I think it was one of my best experiences of life. Was to work at like Pardot. And
we're gonna have to have a download on that later. Because I need to learn those messaging skills
offline.
It's just stuff. Like I mean, I understood the value of product marketing. Actually,
massive.
At Salesforce is like what message means is something I never learned before. Like I learned at Salesforce, and what it means to own a narrative. In the marketplace, like what does it take to create a narrative? Like these are all the things that you can't learn in school. You can't like you have like I feel like I got my MBA in those 2 years at Salesforce.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. So what was the question?
Yeah, how are things different between the Pardot experience and Terminus?
So in that sense, we had a category.
Yes.
Right?
You came into a category.
It was already there, and it was more like, how can we compete, right? So it wasn't all about educating the marketplace.
Sure, you already had Eloqua and you had other
Marketo, and they're all putting money in kind of educating the market. So we're like, oh, we're just better than them and cheaper than them, and you should use us. Like, so it was very easy, right? Like the kind of conversation, and it just worked. At Terminus, we're based in Atlanta. We haven't raised like hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, right? We are kind of like, first-time founders. Like we haven't really done this before, and we're trying to build a new category. All wrong things, wrong place, wrong timing. Like you can just add up to that, right? So like it's not a recipe for success. So we had to do things that are like super bold, and something that will kind of put us on the map, and that's kind of what we tried to do.
So like what does that mean? What you tried to do? You tried to actually define the category yourself. Because you said there isn't a category, so we need to tell people what this category is and tell them why they need to get smart about it.
What made you think there was a category to create?
I'll tell you a quick story about this. Is my wife. This is where the personal part comes in. Like when I decided to kind of move out of Salesforce and joined, so it was founded 6 months prior to me joining, and it was a really awesome like a technology solution, but wasn't a product. And when I looked at that, I'm like, this is a product, guys. Like, we can go and do ABM. And my co-founder said, well, what is ABM? I'm like, well, we need to restructure the company. I need to come in as a co-founder, and that's how it started. But when I talked to my wife,
he said, we got the framework. Restructure this.
Restructure. Here we go. Tag me in.
So my wife had quit her job because we just had a second baby, and she was just 1 month old at that time. And I go home, like I had drinks with Eric and like excited, and I go home and tell my wife, like, I'm doing this
Eric
thing.
is your co-founder?
Yeah, Eric is my co-founder. Eric Spett, incredible guy, really, really smart guy. And Eric Vasu, who kind of builds the product. And I got excited, went back home to my wife, and she just looked at me, and we didn't talk the whole night. I slept on the couch downstairs.
Listen to that, DG. Listen to that, DG.
This is the first night, right?
You had 1 month old?
Teach my nephew over here about the reality.
I have a 1 month old.
Yeah. There you go, right?
He had 2 kids.
Second. This is second.
That's why your wife didn't talk to you.
Yeah. And
he volunteered to go sleep on the couch.
I came up, I told hey, I want to do this, and without any conversation, I'm like, I'm gonna sleep on the couch.
I'll go right to the couch.
So it was a complete voluntary conversation.
Have a good night.
Yeah, and then 5 days we had this back and forth of this is what I want to do.
5 days.
And,
a back and forth, or is that a nicer way?
Well, it was like
a conversation.
We went through all 7 layers of denial, agreement, are you crazy, to all that
anger,
all that stuff, right? And then she's like, all right, you're gonna do this, and this is going to require me to go get a job.
Yeah.
So
she had to go get a job,
baby,
second kid.
She had to go get a job in 6 weeks, and you're not going to make as much money clearly for the at least 1 year or so, right? So she looked in my eyes and said to me directly, this is the punchline of it, right? Say, you got 1 year, and in 1 year, if you don't show me this as legs, you're going to go find a real job.
Woo!
Right? And
This is the education of
That's
DG.
that's finding your why. That's the
Yeah.
finding your why
It
right
was found
there,
for
right?
him.
Yeah, this was
one
like
year.
a fire underneath me, like
Yeah.
every single day, because I have to go home and look into her eyes, like, how did the day go?
Go,
Right?
yeah.
Right?
She's like 364 days left.
Did she have like a? She made you have like a Leeds waterfall chart at
Yeah.
home too. She's like,
A
"Where the
burn
Leeds
down?
Sangram?
Burn
Show
down?
me."
Yeah, so she still has a job because
Still
we're
has a
still in a
job.
startup. And like when
Good.
we raise money, she said like, hey,
Good.
so when is any of this coming in the bank? And I'm like, well, it's coming, right? So, but she's like, we've crossed the path of like, she's like, all right, this has some legs. But that drove me personally, and thereby some of the stuff that we have done is because that personal thing is more important than anything else. So all I want to do is make her win. And make her feel like whatever she believed in is true. So it's
Man,
more
we
about
talk
That's
about-
inspiring.
that's
Thank you for
Thank you for the
educating DG,
education.
because we need to educate him.
We
Yeah.
do. We
On
have
the
a lot.
sacrifices.
We have a lot of things. This podcast has just become the education of DG. I
Yes, that should be the subtitle.
Yeah, there's
Right.
a lot of messages where DC like might be talking to you, but he's looking at me
Yeah.
directly in the
Directly.
heart.
I'm like, Sangram, tell him.
Hey,
Tell
you
him.
tell him
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
said
yeah.
about the baby and the
Yeah, yeah.
wife and working and all
it
that
all
stuff.
worked out. It all worked out. It's the truth.
It's the truth.
Okay, there's actually interesting things in there unrelated to marketing that I think people want to hear about. So you have a family.
Yep.
You have 2 kids. You had this startup. What is your take on work-life balance?
I mean, I'm like, there's no such thing. Like in many ways, like I think, when you are passionate about the problem, it doesn't feel like work. I think when people say work-life balance, I feel like somebody wants to kind of teach in an elementary school and they're actually doing a firefighter job, right? You're gonna be stressed out about it, right? But when you do something that you really care about and like really feel it, it will never feel like work. And that's what I feel like. I don't feel like what I do is work. So it's part of it, and I'm not like stressed out. Like, you can ask at work and stuff. I just do my thing, and I feel like it's like super fulfilling. It's like that, having lunch with Megan from HubSpot, and we were talking about this idea of like a difference between achievement and fulfillment. What I do today, I feel like is fulfilling. It doesn't matter, like, of course I want Terminus to be successful, but that's not like is its achievement. Like when Terminus has an IPO or like whatever great event, it will be an achievement, but the fulfillment is from solving a real problem that I really deeply care about. And that's the journey I'm on, and it makes it super, super exciting.
There you
have
go.
no comments.
There
on
you
that?
go. Listen to the man. That's all I have to say.
I think there's some deep conversation
No,
here.
we're actually just
We're aligned.
We're aligned. That's more. We get a lot of questions about
this.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about this. We send a lot of articles around about this, about achieving work-life balance, and we've talked a lot about. It doesn't exist. It can't be one or the other.
It doesn't mean that you kind of like go home every day and like go crazy and just start working.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Right. Like for example, I take Uber to work because my work commute is like an hour. So I've started to change my work schedule in a way that I'm taking Uber, and while I'm driving back, that's when I'm clearing up all my inbox and emails. So by the time I get home, like my inbox is clean.
That's
right?
crazy. I might have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it is just a fascinating thing. So I'm just trying to be productive
Is
with my
Uber
time.
cheaper in Atlanta?
Not as much.
Not
but-
much.
Yeah, but okay, an hour.
But hopefully my rate per hour is a little bit higher
Higher.
than Uber rate.
Than
an
Uber driver.
hour in Atlanta, he's probably going 75 miles, right?
Yeah.
You would be in an Uber for 3 hours. Like I got.
How far do you go in an hour?
Wow,
How
it's
many miles?
about 35 miles.
Oh, same as me.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I love that. Sorry. So the work-life balance thing, I think we've talked. We
I'm
said
gonna do that. I'm gonna do an Uber.
you should.
I'm gonna
Actually,
Uber.
no. The hour that you're driving home is like that's my
You might
zen.
get more emails.
That's my zen moment. I'm
That's
like,
your zen moment.
I'm like, where is he? Where is he?
It's
He
quiet right
He
now.
must be
It's quiet.
He must be communicating.
Don't worry, I have helpful here. I do video messages.
Yeah, that is true. I love
Yeah.
that. Do you have any so I love that idea. Like how can you take this time that's usually wasted, which is a commute, and do something productive? Do you have anything else like in your life that you try to do stuff like that with, like?
You know what? Sorry to interrupt, but the Uber thing, I hadn't told anyone this, but I had been researching, like, maybe I should just get, like, someone to drive me to work every day.
I love it.
And just work the whole time.
I bet you somebody who listens to this podcast right now
Who
is
wants
like,
that?
ooh, I'm in.
just,
Okay.
like email, like David cancel at
You
Drift
would
or whatever.
get, how many hours would you get back? 2, 3?
Yeah, 2
Depends.
minimum per day.
2 hours. Like, I mean, and that's like
Massive.
Crazy.
And the bigger part is like the cycles that
Yeah.
you've already wasted. Like you've already checked like email 50 times in
Yeah.
that, right? Which
Yeah.
is bad in
Yeah.
general, but we all do it. And then you're like, oh, I gotta respond to that. I gotta respond to that. Or ideas. Like I have this crazy. I'm sure it happens to all of
Yeah.
you guys too. It's like, oh shoot, there's an idea. This would be
Totally,
phenomenal.
totally,
Let's
when I'm
get
driving.
dogs and cats at a conference. Amazing idea,
Yeah.
right? But and then I forget about it.
This
right?
happened to me on Sunday.
it.
My wife and I and my baby, we were out downtown, and I left my phone at home. I
Yeah.
just said I'm going to take 2 hours. I'm just gonna go so I can
Yeah.
hang out with my wife and my little girl. And I had an idea, and I had nothing on me, and so I went to a bookstore on Newberry Street, Trident Bookseller, and I bought a notebook and a pen because
awesome.
I had to write something down. And I was like, I couldn't think about anything
You're
else.
like, don't talk to me,
I was
don't
like, hold
talk
on,
to
hold
me.
on,
Might
hold
lose
on,
the
hold on, hold on, hold on. And I went in there. I literally bought this notebook. That's why this is brand new.
Oh, that's why it's new.
Yep. And so then I feel a lot better.
You write it
So
down.
lesson
I like
learned
that.
is if I'm gonna leave home without my phone, I need some notes.
Let me know if you want to drive me 10 hours a week. Freed up. Crazy.
Oh, man.
That's 10 hours a
That's
week.
the future of this show.
Yeah.
We record you
Yeah.
in
On
the
the
car,
car.
in the back of the car.
And that's like Gary Vaynerchuk at a
Yeah,
job. Isn't the whole thing?
Totally.
We got a crew
Let's
in
do
there.
it. Let's do it.
Awesome.
DJ will have to move up so we do a show on the way.
I love
Yeah.
it.
How long is your commute?
He works, man.
15 minutes.
He's
door to
living the
door.
life, man.
Man.
Yeah.
He stops in, he stops at the buttery, gets a croissant, eats it. Yeah. Then he's
People
like,
watching a
yeah,
little
His
bit.
favorite
people
thing.
watching.
His
He
favorite
walks
thing.
in
He's
and then
like,
he's
man.
like, hey, like, do you want to do another show on work-life balance? Let's talk about balance. It's like, dude, you walked in, you walked 5 minutes.
Man,
you ate
I just
3
didn't watch
you
you.
ate
Sorry.
you ate 2 croissants. You know, he's like sitting up.
And he gets mad. He gets
went through the
gets
park.
mad that I call him the old guy. I didn't
Yeah.
say that. But now he's telling you the equivalent of like when I was your age. He said this to me. When I was your age, I used to drive 2 hours.
That's because he told me one day that something was hard about his life. I was like, what?
What are you talking
I was like,
about?
you live 3 blocks away, dude.
I'm gonna
You get a
start
croissant
crying.
on the
I'm
way.
gonna start
Yeah.
crying.
I'm like, you know, when
You
I
get
was,
a croissant on the way.
I did. I got croissants from the sales team.
yeah, when
you
when I
never
had a
did
company years ago in the same building that we are now, I commuted 40 miles, bro. 40
Man.
miles. Shh.
That's too bad.
With 2 kids.
That's why you are. That's why you are who you are today.
That's it, rugged.
See, that's why. This is how we got here.
This is amazing.
We
I
got to
mean,
harden. We'll call it hardening.
That's
of
what
DG.
we'll
The
have our
hardening.
separate shows. We'll split up the podcast. We'll do hardening with DG.
And it's like
Yeah.
the soft, cuddly thing.
Yeah.
And then
with
we'll be
Sangram.
in the car with you with the video.
Yeah.
All right. So, a couple other things. Are you a reader?
I like to read.
Like what?
Yeah. So.
And when
so,
do you have time to read? How do you make time
In
for
the
it?
car.
In the car. I would throw up.
No, so I listened a lot, right?
You do? To what?
Yeah, like
Seeking
like
Wisdom.
Seeking Wisdom.
Okay.
Flip My Funnel
6
podcast.
stars.
Flip My Funnel podcast.
But like I think I listened to like Andy Stanley. I don't know if you guys are familiar. We were talking about it last
Sure.
night. He has a huge church in Atlanta, and he talks a ton about leadership. And he's a leadership podcast, so it's pretty cool. So
Oh,
Oh,
this
that's
was
how
the.
I've heard his name.
This
Yeah.
was
Okay,
the
now
guy.
I put it together.
yeah, it's a
I have
leadership
seen.
pod. It's
Yeah.
incredible. It's like 15-20 minutes, and
Yeah.
it's literally like he talks about what leadership is and
Yeah.
how he does, and he's built like amazing kind of curriculum around that. But like next to my bed are like 2 books. One is my Bible, and the other one is Mark Benioff's Behind the Cloud.
That's basically the Bible.
Yeah.
The
That's the
second
Bible.
Bible.
It's the playbook, right?
So do you reread that book a lot?
a ton of times.
Really?
Yeah.
A ton of times, like every time. Like that's the only book that I have more underlines and highlights and all that stuff than any other book
See
ever.
where I get along with Sam?
Would love that. We
G.
actually probably this will be episode 82. 3 or 4 episodes. We just did 3
Yeah.
lessons from that book.
Yep.
Because I reread it again. DC
Yeah.
put me on that book, you
Yep.
know, and now it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's the one. Like if you're doing marketing, if you're building a business, like out of all the books in the world that you could pick, that
It's
would
a
be.
It's literally like
Yeah.
he's
Plays.
literally talking to you, right?
Yeah.
It's like a
Plays.
layman English, like playbook by playbook by playbook marketing stuff. I mean, I'm like, man, this guy like put it out there. Now it's
Yeah.
for us,
Yep.
people like us, to kind of figure out how do we leverage some of it. But some of the stuff that I just talked about is like, it's funny, we didn't think about it, but we actually followed some of those principles that he had in there, like challenging the status quo and
Yeah.
how you think about David and Goliath, like, what is it that who you want to be. So it's super, super interesting. I
That's
didn't know you
interesting.
actually, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was like 5 times, man.
I can't
At
even
least
I can't
maybe
even
6.
say a book, and he's like, yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
I read that. 96.
Well, what do you
Yeah.
remember of those books, right?
That one is highly highlighted. For
Yeah.
me, another way.
And
I've sent it to him like a million times.
because there's so many things in there that we think about a lot, and really the only way to compete if you're building a SaaS company, especially today, is like they cared so much about brand, they cared so much about getting everybody on the same page, they cared so much about creating a movement.
Yeah.
He was a genius when it came to marketing and like guerrilla marketing and PR.
Yeah.
Showing up at the Moscone Center with actors who got locked in jail cells to like be freeing the world from Siebel. Is just like that's the stuff that we think about.
Man, I wonder if I should do that in September.
Maybe you should.
We probably should.
Here in Boston.
We should.
There's one thing. This is probably
Tuesday
good.
through Friday.
Tuesday through Friday.
Good for you.
Free
And from a
the world.
marketing perspective, he talked about something. He said his board of directors or others always asked him like, hey, why are you spending so much on marketing? You remember that part? Where he said that I always want to make sure that when we are $1 million company, we should act and look like a $10 million company. We're a $10 million company, we should act and look like a $100 million company.
Love that.
And that actually has like, you can just
Totally.
keep that and make a poster of this thing. Like and mentally I have it. And it's like, we have to be acting up as much bigger than who we are. And that's how you gain respect. And I think he did that in he didn't have a playbook, he built it.
That's amazing.
What else, DC? Anything I forgot that you want to talk to him about?
We should talk about 6-star ratings.
We should.
Here.
We should. What do you think people? So you're speaking at Hypergrowth. I want
Yes.
to talk about that for a second.
Excited.
What do you think? What do you think we should expect in year one with this lineup?
I know.
What do
Being
you-
our first.
Being our first.
And DG only committing to 1,000 people.
I only
Yeah,
committed.
it's a
Although
low ball.
no, this morning he tried after talking to you about the
I
guy
sent him a
from
message.
about your church and getting 3,000 people there every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
He sent me a message this morning. Let me see if I can actually pull it up. He sent me a message this morning telling me that I need to consider upping our goals for the conference because this guy in Atlanta created this movement.
Yeah.
A single church, a church that Sangram goes to, 3,000 people show up every week.
Yeah, I have a video. Yeah, this is the app that we use every week.
Every week. DG's had like 6 months to get 1,000 people.
This guy's a marketing genius. We should have him speak at Hypergrowth.
I don't think he had it to kind of on DG's side here a little bit, right? I got to take his
Sangram,
side.
easy.
So it's like he didn't have 3,000 people the first year.
Right. So what you're saying is if he got 1,000 in his first year, that would be incredible.
You're putting words in my mouth. All right,
This is awesome.
It would be incredible
It would be
every
incredible.
Sunday.
I love
Weekly.
that.
He's like, it's good, but not great.
Yeah.
Just
you gotta-
weekly.
I mean, that's how you grow.
All right. What?
That's a movement.
What are you What are you excited about right now? Anything that you're reading, listening to? Leave us with something.
Some wisdom before we kick it off.
I'm excited about this notion of time lately. I feel like time is the most underappreciated, underrated kind of commodity, kind of in a sense. So when I say time, I mean not just our individual times, which we all should value, and that's where the Uber and all the productivity hacks come in, but also thinking about time as what is the likelihood of somebody taking an action that's worth based on the idea of time. So for example, if somebody is spending more time with you on, like, let's just take it to the high level, like in a relationship, right? You spend time with your significant others, and the more time you spend shows the quality of your relationship, right? You wouldn't be spending so much time with your significant other if you don't care. We wouldn't be going out for dinner yesterday if we did not care. He's like,
Exactly.
man, Sangram is coming. I'm out of town, right?
I'm out of town. I'm
Right.
busy that night.
Right. But no, you made time on a Monday night, right? I mean, that was pretty incredible. So I super appreciate it. But that's because we valued that time.
Exactly.
Right? And if the more time somebody's spending with you shows the quality. So I think about, like, from a marketing and sales perspective, we all need to kind of think about the time our prospects are spending with us. So if somebody's spending more time with you on your website or on your calls or all that stuff, there's a high propensity. People are not tracking time. People are tracking activities. Like, hey, I had like 3 calls with this person. I did this and that and the other. But people are not spending time, kind of thinking about how much time is this person spent with you? Because I really have this theory that I'm asking the team to kind of look into is like the more time somebody spends, what is the higher propensity for them to buy? Like, show me that. And I intrinsically believe that time is a very wild factor that people are not thinking about and not appreciating enough to consider it and really measure it.
I love that. That's cool. So I need you to spend some time right now leaving a 6-star review. Let's try to break Apple down. right? And 6-star review, Seeking Wisdom. Shout out Sangram. Shout out DHD.
Yep.
She's running solo right now. She's got
Solo.
about
She
7
got
cameras
7
in here.
This is full
3
production.
lights,
I
love
full
it.
production.
I feel like a
Lights every-
celebrity here.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
DHD makes everyone feel like a celebrity. Shout us
Yeah,
all out.
please.
6-star reviews only. Please join us September 25th in Boston. Meet Sangram in the flesh.
In the flesh.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's going to bring the fire and the heat.
We're gonna do something a little different, actually. Like after your session, hoping that you'll kind of hang around and say
Yeah.
what's up to people. Versus traditionally, speakers kind of go away and hide.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
we're
can
trying
actually
to do
come
different.
hang.
Yeah. So Hypergrowth, Seeking Wisdom, promo code, see Sangram in person. He'll tell you some stories.
Yeah.
Ask him about a horse when you see him.
The horseback riding.
The horseback
it.
ride, his only horseback riding ever. Ask him.
All right, we're out of here.
See ya.
Thank you so much, guys.